Hey, Brent.
Matt Reisinger.
Welcome to Austin, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
What do we got going on over here, man?
This is, first of all, this is an awesome neighborhood. I mean, nice and historic stuff, but this
Hyde Park?
house, yeah, is it Hyde Park?
It's an old neighborhood, yeah.
Okay,
for sure.
so this is 1890s. It has all kinds of funky stuff going on. There's a 1980s addition on the top, but there's like 1950s windows and 1920, colonnade. It's a cool house.
Oh man, there's all kinds of layers. 130 years old is old for Austin, Texas.
Dude,
We're not an old town.
there's some stuff in here that I'm kind of like, I don't know what was going on there. So it's a fun thing. I'm here with an architect, Rick Black, called me. Good guy, and we're looking at some millwork for him.
Can we go take a look?
Yeah, come on in.
All right, let's do it, man.
All right, so this is a 1890s house with a 1980s addition, right?
Oh man, there's a lot to see here, Brent. I can tell already.
So, one thing that's so interesting for me is that there's layers of time in this house. I mean, just like, the masonite, right? I think that's masonite
that looks
siding,
like masonite
right?
siding,
right?
yeah.
And just, the windows with the faux, 6/6,
Yep.
right? All those things that date themselves versus this original stuff on the bottom porch. It's just a cool house.
So look at that. In this one photo, we got 3 layers, guys. So that upper story was what, 80s masonite maybe?
Yep.
And if you don't remember the masonite debacle, it was a siding that was kind of like MDF siding, right? I never put any on. This is kind of before my time.
I remember it, and being like cardboard, right? It's just thick or heavier cardboard.
Which cracks me up because the builders that weren't around for that, some of them are using some sidings that are made of man-made like OSB, which I would never use. I don't get that. Although shockingly, that one looks like it's in good shape. When I worked in Oregon and did some remodeling, those were like mushrooms growing out of some of those.
Yeah, a lot wetter climate.
And then what are the 2 sidings we're seeing right here, Brent?
Well, we've got asbestos, and so that's kind of one of the time stamps on this thing is you've got behind this bush, there's a steel window, right?
Yep.
So that's usually 40s, 50s, 60s, something like that. And that's when we think they put that asbestos siding on there. And underneath that, you can see the original siding underneath, which was Victorian, right? So that's 1890s, right? And so there's all these different layers here. Even that porch, right? It's a concrete porch with a parging on the side. The parging is done with wire lath, right? And so it's after 1890s as well. And so it was probably a wood porch, right? But there's a lot of cool stuff in this house.
Yeah, one other quick thing I want to point out, Brent. Look at the gutter damage right there.
Isn't that awesome?
That gutter's overflowing and just absolutely destroyed that top. Gutters are good for houses, but if you don't keep them clean, boy, they could do some damage over the years,
they hold water, right? They trap it.
Yeah.
So
let's go inside, man.
Check it out.
Sounds good.
Oh, before we go in, Matt, I want to show you this. So we're trying to peel back all these layers and figure out what was here, right? What's original, what wasn't. One of the things is we started trying to figure out, one, what's underneath this asbestos, right?
Yep.
We found this pretty cool siding, and then we found that interesting beadboard detail, right? Because of the paint lines on there, you can also see how it was paneled out. So it was a paneled beadboard above this. We're kind of trying to figure out. The other thing, in fact, we want to do it right now. We're trying to figure out what the original columns were, right?
Yeah, these are obviously not it. These 4x4 spindly posts were not 100 years old.
And we think that was put on probably when they did this concrete porch. So I'm hoping that there's a shadow line of a column right here.
Let's check it out, man. Shall we?
Let's check it out. So
aluminum, it looks like, on the corner. And that's lasted really well. That's in good shape.
Yeah.
And this asbestos siding, I wish that it wasn't, I wish it was still available today. Look how good that still looks. After what, 75 years?
Exactly. So,
I dare you to do that to some of the modern sidings today.
All right, so we're seeing a shadow line, but that could be just a corner board, right? But you are seeing cut nails right there, right? So this is original siding put on with cut nails.
That's a cut nail, guys. Check that out.
So cut nails.
Which is tell us about cut nails.
Well, cut nail is there's one of the early things we learned in North Bennett Street was dating a house based on nails. And so the wire nail, which is the round nail, doesn't happen until 1890s, 1900. And before that is cut nails. Cut nail is basically a steel plate that they chopped like this, and you go through there and get the angle on it. And so it's
how do they make the head on it? Were they actually, was the guy who forged it making
this
head?
was all been machine made, and so it was put into a clamp, and then just a big pound came down on top of it.
Gotcha.
And if you look at the stamp nail or cut nail companies, they had all kinds of brads that had no head on them. They had the same kind of nails we would use today, and then they did put heads on them. So Well, unfortunately, I don't see a shadow line of where that post was.
Yep.
So, you know, here, this is part of the exploring that's fun, but we are seeing original siding here. We know it's original because of cut nails. So we've got a Victorian siding, and one of the things Rick's trying to figure out is the kind of siding we put back on here, right? So, anyway.
You know what else is interesting out here before we leave? This tar paper is really in pretty darn good shape.
Yeah.
It's real thick and oily still after all these years, and this is probably from the 50s. You can almost see a kind of greasy film on it. It's thick. And then also, look at this. This smart builder, there was a lap right here. This smart builder used a rip at the lap.
Look at
How
that.
smart to watershed. So basically where these lapped over, there was a piece of tar paper that was lapped over top of this next layer so that water wasn't getting in.
Well, one thing that we're finding with this house is that they were spending money. Sometimes you see cheap remodels, right, where crap is put in.
Yep.
Here's one where each of different layers seems to have been well done.
Yeah, this 50s builder did a great job.
Yeah.
Or 50s remodeler, I should say.
Right, exactly.
It was our grandfather doing this.
All right, so here's a clue walking into the house. See the transoms over the doors, right? We're going to see that in a few places, and the header heights change in here. So
all right, let's go on
here's
in.
the first clue. So here's one of the clues, right, as we go into this house. And really what you're dealing with is all these different header heights, right? So here's an original door, right? This is actually a 20s door, okay, with a 1890s opening with transom, right?
Okay.
Got that there.
And would that transom have been operable back
Yeah.
then?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because you know these houses, we're in the South, right?
It's hot.
It's hot.
There's no AC.
You've got to have these tall ceilings, right? So that the heat rises, and then these windows would have opened, so that would allow convection air to move through
I never
here.
thought about tall ceilings with the heat. That's part of it, right?
Yeah. In fact, when up in Boston, most of the ceilings we were dealing with were all 8 foot in old houses, right? Because they were trying to keep heat down. You come to the South, and you got these real tall ceilings.
So that heat gets up there and gets out, and the transom's open, but you get privacy with the door
Transoms, the windows drop down, and you would have really had nice air movement through a house like this.
That's cool.
All right,
so then this is the living room.
Right, but here's the cool thing, right? So basically, you've got this situation where you've got this tall window and this low thing here. Okay, this is the colonnade. This is typical from the millwork catalogs from the 20s, okay? Maybe 1910.
Meaning they ordered this out of a catalog?
I ordered this out of a catalog.
Wow,
it would have been
cool.
available. I'll take that one. They come in boxes, shipped, and then a carpenter would have installed it.
That's
right?
so cool.
It's really cool.
So this would have been this tapered miter, which would be super hard to do without modern machinery.
Was made in a
This
factory.
is pre-made in a factory somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
How awesome. And what kind of catalog? A Sears and Roebuck catalog?
So Sears and Roebuck would have been like the homeowner's version. Like the professional version would have been in the lumber yard, and they were hardcover bound books that are just beautiful, and they would illustrate all kinds of openings like this, all kinds of colonnades. Sometimes these had bookcases in them. I have one where there's a writing desk in it.
Oh my gosh.
All kinds of ways to
I would
play
drool
with
over
fun
that
stuff.
today to get one of those catalogs.
But so what you have here is something that, as a preservationist, I start looking at going, wait, why is this and that? What's going on here, right? And so what you begin to realize is that this house was an 1890s house, and probably 1910, 1920, they said we got to remodel, okay? And that's when they put this in, right? And that's when they put the moldings and trim in. So there's some changes here, and we're trying to figure it out.
Now, why do we have a sill height here and then a sill height at the floor?
Well,
and why is there a big hole at the top of this window?
This is awesome. So what you see here is here's your check rail, right? We've got a small upper sash and a really tall lower sash and a pocket, okay?
Oh, that's a pocket.
This is a typical Southern thing where this would lift all the way up into the ceiling and you could walk right out into the porch. See these in South Carolina, you see these in New Orleans, but this is awesome.
I've never seen that before.
And the ropes have been cut, right? And so we can get this thing working again like that. It's just
cool.
It's really cool.
Great job on your video series, by the way, on buildshownetwork.com on two-part series on getting your windows working again.
Well,
that was awesome.
If you watch that, you could definitely get this window working again. So yeah.
Now talk to me about this paneling and what's behind that. What's that green
so
drywall?
More dating and stamping, right? We've got a steel window here, right? What's that doing here, right? That's 1950s.
50s.
Probably put on when they did that asbestos siding, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we've got this stuff, right? Remember this stuff. This is
some paneling.
It's some paneling, some faux wood paneling. You see they only had an 8-foot sheets, and so there's the little strip there at the top. but this was put over top here, and we begin to see.
And that's not sheetrock, is it?
It's not sheetrock. And at first I thought it was, but yeah, see that?
Here?
So there's some original wallpaper on muslin, right? On cheesecloth.
So this cheesecloth or muslin was actually nailed on with some small nails,
yeah,
right?
it was braided on, right?
And then on top of that, they wallpapered right on, and this wallpaper could be really old.
Probably the 1890s, right? So this is a working man's house. This is not like a mansion, so they wouldn't have plastered the walls. If it was a really nice house, the walls would have been plastered. In a working man's house, this would have been sheathed like this, and then muslin, and then the wallpaper put right over top. And you know, for you, there's no insulation in these walls.
No insulation, and this is interesting, Brent. Look, you look at this wood. There's no damage. It looks fine. On the top of this, though, there's some water damage. This is an exterior wall right here. Probably there was some air conditioning added at some point.
Right.
This surface got cold. Probably this is from condensation.
Oh, interesting.
Would be my guess, because look, it's not like there's a window or a leak, and it's kind of one little spot in the middle.
Yeah.
And look at the back of this right here. We've got some mold from the back of this 50s paneling where it's touching this kind of paper surface. But on the back of this, there's no mold, there's no issues. So it's kind of a catch-22. You get an old house, you remodel it, you upgrade it over the years, you add insulation, then the mold comes. But this was probably a super inefficient house, but a very healthy house.
Well, you were pointing out that gutter on the outside. It's right there.
Oh, that's right.
It's possible that water could be coming down that corner,
That's
too.
right, that could be. And that's the only mold I've seen so far. Other than that, this looks good.
Yeah.
And there's no insulation in these walls. Plenty of airflow.
Yeah.
Not a very comfortable house. Not a very efficient house to AC.
Correct.
But probably a pretty healthy house until we started messing with the envelope.
Correct.
Over the decades.
And there's signs that they had, put the AC in later, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, this is
Now, what's up with this wood here? I'm assuming this is all going to get dumpstered, right?
this piece of wood I'm holding right here is probably worth $50.
What? $50 for this?
So this is longleaf yellow pine, right? And you can see maybe there's a couple tight knots in here, but that is a clear piece of probably 10 or 11 inch
wide
longleaf yellow pine,
which was probably felled in the 70s,
yeah, 70s,
80s.
right? And so for me to buy this piece of wood today is a $10 to $12, $15 to $18 sometimes for a clear piece of yellow pine. And so no, we did not throw this away.
And you know what? I bet because that's that longleaf, that it's probably quite rot resistant as well.
Oh my gosh, this when I talk about old windows, I talk about wood a lot. The quality of this wood, you can't get better than it. And so it doesn't rot, right? It's so hard. It's just great wood.
So $30 a board foot. If you were to throw this in the dumpster, this is probably $200 bills being thrown in the dumpster.
I'm telling you, it's throwing money away.
And same with this wall here.
Same with this wall.
Behind this whole wall's right here.
Well, and
you've got gold.
Yeah, and we can date it because this has the cut nails in it, right?
Yep.
So we know that this is originally the 1890s. This is good wood.
Yeah, and big plug for the builder architect. They're already saving this. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
This isn't dumpster fodder. They're saving this specifically to reuse.
Yeah, it's worth a lot.
Let's go check out the other parts of the house.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Brent, so we're heading to the dining room now.
This is the dining room, right? There's some pretty cool things here. One, this is the outside of the house, right? Because there's green siding out here, right?
Oh, right there, yeah.
And you're seeing some of the original openings because you can see the original paint lines here.
So was this a porch they enclosed, maybe, or an
We
addition?
suspect. See the ceilings pitched like that? See the ceiling dips down.
And we got new studs back here.
And we got new studs. So this is, as we're dating and trying to figure out this house, right? This is certainly something that original house, probably a back porch like you're saying, that was closed in later.
Yeah, makes sense.
One of the other things that's pretty cool right here is that we've got, we've got cut nails holding this, and we know this shiplap's original 1890s, right? Well, one of the things that was confusing was trying to put together this baseboard. When did this baseboard come? Well, you see wire nails here, so it was put in later. And our original wallpaper goes down past below this.
So there was a smaller base probably at some point.
There was a smaller base, or something was going on here, because we know that this was probably added at the same time as that colonnade was added.
You know, I wonder, Brent, if there's a board missing here. I wonder if they ripped that off to run new electrical, because I noticed there's knob and tube over here.
That's a great point.
So I bet they ripped this base off. They pulled this piece of shiplap, ran the new electrical up to their locations,
well,
and then put a taller base to cover
Yeah,
it.
no, you're exactly right. I mean, there is evidence of the knob and tube here.
Yep.
This is the knob. The tube is what comes through the
stud. Here's the old wire, and there's the new Romex.
Yeah. So no, that's actually, it could have been updated at that time. They brought electrical in the house. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
I've watched a lot of this old house, Brent, and a lot of your videos of Build Show Network.
So anyway, then we go back into the kitchen, right? And so now you see an original stovepipe opening there,
look at
right?
that. Yeah.
We're back to even this doorway, there was an original header height there, so there would have been a transom.
And look at that.
Same
look
thing
at
here.
The muslin and the original wallpaper.
Yeah, so
that's still up
they
there
covered
even.
this all with sheet. They've just opened this all up, but yeah, we're looking at the original ceiling there.
Yeah, this looks great, man.
Isn't this awesome?
This is awesome. Now this shiplap, just to, for those of you who've not seen it before, you know, we see a lot of shiplap on HGTV, and it's painted white, and it's put on top of sheetrock, but this is legitimate structural sheathing back in the day.
Exactly. So this is pre-plywood, right? And plywood in construction doesn't really start, being used in the 50s and 60s and even later.
Yep.
So this is how they sheathed the house. This is how they kept
Horizontal.
it, from on the inside, and the siding would have been on the outside, right?
Yeah, and we call it shiplap, but the profile is basically this tongue is a half lap over
Right.
here, and they nailed it on, and that gave the house that structural racking strength. The other thing this gave the house, I love saying this word, hygric buffer capacity, Brent.
What'd you
It's
call
a nerdy
me?
word. It basically means that this is a big sponge in the house, right? This real old wood could soak up a bunch of water, and you wouldn't even realize you had a leak inside. It would soak it up, and then because there was no insulation, this pink stuff was added when they remodeled this kitchen, probably in the
Right.
50s,
Yeah.
60s, 80s, let's say. It would soak up all that water, and an old house like this could hold probably 100 gallons
Is
in
that
all
right?
this wood. I've heard Joe Stiebrick say that.
Is that right?
And it could soak up all that water and then let it out over time. There'd be no rot, no mold. This still looks like the day it was installed.
Well, they didn't really have mold problems back then,
No,
right?
no, that's right. Plenty of airflow through those
Yeah.
houses. That's
Yeah.
why I take waterproofing so critically on my job.
Yeah.
Because once sheetrock gets introduced and you've got all this paper facing, paper is the perfect place for mold to grow. So now we have very little capacity to either have a water leak or have an air leak. Because anytime air leaks through, it's going to find a place to condense on our houses in Texas that have air conditioning. One other interesting thing about this old house, Brent, that I want to mention is as they upgraded the services over the years, like look at that PEX piping through there.
Yeah.
That certainly wasn't original.
No.
That's a kitchen remodel. You can see all the way down into the crawl space. There was no thought to air sealing in this old house. So you're breathing in this kitchen, whatever's in the crawl space. It's like you're crawling on your belly in the crawl space every day when you take a breath in this kitchen. It's fully connected
That's a
to
bad
that
thing.
space below. That's not a good thing. We don't want that. Brent, amazing tour, man.
Yeah,
I've
it's a
learned
cool house.
so much seeing this old
Well,
house.
this is a good one. I mean, there's a lot of layering here, and it's hard to figure out, right? And so when they finish peeling all this stuff back, I think there's going to be some more clues that they're going to find that'll be really informative.
And you know what else I like about this tour, Brent? And I'm hoping that all my young builder friends, remodelers are watching this. Over the years, I've learned so much by remodeling old houses.
For sure.
To see how houses last. And I'll be honest, when I started my career, I started as a production builder. I worked as a production builder for almost 10 years before I started doing custom homes and a lot of remodels. And you know, if you haven't seen how houses last, you do things without thinking, and
Right.
you're not as concerned. But when you see houses like this that are still in good shape, that are around, you start to get an understanding for really what's the lasting durability of a house and why building science matters.
Well, and obviously me being a preservation guy, you learn so much from the past. Not only how things last, the quality of materials, the craftsmanship.
Yep.
I mean, when you have to peel it back and then put it back,
Yep.
right? You learn so much about building and the old ways of doing things. It's good stuff.
Totally, Brent.
Yeah.
Couple things I want to say. Huge thanks to Rick and Cindy
Yeah,
Black,
for
the
sure.
architects over here, for
Yep.
letting us take the tour. From Matt Davenport, the builder here. This is going to be a beautiful job.
Good
Maybe they'll let
project.
us visit in the future.
Yeah.
Guys, if you don't know Brent, you got to come see his work over on BuildShowNetwork.com. I actually started watching Brent on Network TV when he had an amazing show that only ran for, what, 2 seasons?
Yeah, History Channel.
And I'm sad that's no longer on him, but Brent's running strong. Every single week he's got a new video on BuildShowNetwork.com. He's an incredible craftsman, started as a carpenter. He went to North Bennett Street, a really famous school in Boston. And so he's got a ton of knowledge from his decades of being in restoration. You gotta come over and see him on BuildShowNetwork.com.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, if you're not currently subscribed to my YouTube channel, though, hit that subscribe button. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.